My name is Rachel Matthews, and I'm 38 years old. On paper, my life looks perfect. Steady career in logistics management, a modest but cozy house in a peaceful neighborhood where kids race their bikes up and down the block until the streetlights flicker on. 2 cars in the driveway, a clean credit score, and a fiancé, Matthew, who, to the outside world, is the perfect catch. Matthew is 36, a charming real estate agent with an effortless smile and an easy laugh. He's the type of man who walks into a room and immediately makes everyone feel like he's known them for years. He remembers everyone's birthdays, gets free dessert at restaurants just by chatting with the waitstaff, and effortlessly makes friends wherever he goes. To the outside world, Matthew is the definition of the perfect man, and I was proud to call him my fiancé. We'd been together for 7 years. Our relationship, on the surface, seemed flawless. But lately, I've started to notice small things. Minor inconsistencies, little moments that didn't add up, but I pushed away because I wanted to believe that everything was perfect. It started innocently enough, Matthew working late or disappearing for guys' nights every Thursday and Saturday. I'd tell myself it was nothing, that he was just busy with work, that our life was stable. But there was an unsettling feeling I couldn't shake. This feeling culminated one Saturday when I was supposed to meet Matthew at a boutique for my final dress fitting. I got there early, parked behind the building to grab coffee from the cafe next door, and was walking back when I heard voices through the loading dock door. I froze. "Right? Tom's jaw is going to drop," Brittany's voice rang out. The kind of excited squeal you get when someone is about to reveal a big secret. I leaned closer, unable to help myself. I shouldn't have been listening, but the curiosity gnawed at me. "Speaking of Tom, you sure about this?" Brittany's voice wavered, a hint of concern beneath her playful tone. There was a long pause before Matthew's voice broke the silence. "Oh, Britt, Tom's perfect. Good job. Owns his condo outright. Solid 401k. My student loans? Poof, gone in 6 months." I felt a coldness settle over me as my grip on the coffee cup tightened. It felt as if the air around me had thickened, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. But it didn't stop there. "But do you love him?" Brittany asked softly. Matthew's laugh wasn't the light, carefree sound I was used to. It was sharp, calculated. I mean, he's sweet, stable, safe. Besides, I can always divorce him and take half if someone better comes along. My stomach dropped. I felt the heat rise in my chest, my face burning with disbelief. "Britt, you're terrible," Brittany laughed nervously. "What if he heard you?" "He's probably stuck in traffic. You know Tom, always 15 minutes early to everything. Such a dork." And that's when I stepped forward. Actually, this dork was 30 minutes early today. Matthew's face drained of color in an instant. His mouth went dry, and the smile he had been wearing so easily vanished. "What? Rachel, He stammered, his eyes darting between me and Brittany, who now looked mortified. I didn't give him a chance to explain. "Joking. Yeah, real comedy gold there, Matthew. I can always divorce you and take half. Real nice." He shifted uncomfortably, trying to backpedal. No, it's not like that." "How long have you been planning this? How long have you been pretending?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and rage. "It sounds like you're marrying me for my money." "No," he pleaded, but the words didn't carry any weight. "It's just a joke. You know how we joke around." "Joke about divorce? About taking half of everything we've worked for?" My voice cracked, but I refused to back down. "No, Matthew, I don't know how you joke about that." His face twisted into damage control mode. "Please, Rachel, you're overreacting." "Actually, Matthew, I'm not. I'm just getting started." I pulled my phone from my purse and hit send on the message I'd drafted earlier, transferring the condo I had bought and paid for into my mom's name. Matthew's eyes widened. What did you do?" "I transferred the condo to my mom last week. Legally hers now. I pay her rent," I said, my voice steady now, my decision final. He stared at me in disbelief. "You can't do that. You're just trying to protect yourself, but this is ridiculous." "Already did that," I replied coolly. "The 401k is off limits. You're counting on loans against it for your brother's business venture. Maybe he'll pay me back, maybe not. But hey, family first, right?" He shook his head in anger, frustration, and disbelief. "This is fraud." "No," I said, standing tall. "It's called estate planning. Completely legal. My lawyer made sure of it." I could see the rage boiling inside of him, his face cycling through anger, fear, and desperation. "You planned this?" he growled, but I could see the cracks forming in his facade. "You really planned this?" "No, Matthew," I said softly. I planned a life, a marriage, a future. You? You were planning an exit strategy all along. From day one, you saw me as an ATM with a ring attached. The boutique owner appeared, sensing the tension. Everything okay back here? She asked with a hesitant smile. Perfect, I replied flatly. But the wedding's off. She can still take the dress, though, non-refundable deposit and all. With that, I walked out, leaving Matthew standing there in stunned silence, Brittany beside him, looking like she had just witnessed a tragedy unfold before her eyes. Part 2. The Revelation and the Response. The days that followed were a blur of texts, calls, and frantic attempts to salvage what Matthew and I had once shared. But it wasn't just the silence that weighed on me. It was the gnawing truth that I had been blind for so long. As the shock wore off, the reality of what I had uncovered sank deeper into my bones, leaving me raw, unsettled, and filled with a sense of loss. It started with a call from Matthew's mother, Diane. Her voice was tight with barely concealed fury. Rachel, what is all this nonsense about canceling the wedding? What happened? Why are you throwing away everything over one small thing? Her words cut through me like glass. Hi, Diane. Melissa didn't tell you? She said she overheard a conversation where Matthew joked about divorcing me for my money if someone better came along. The line went dead silent for a moment. Diane didn't even try to hide the shock and disbelief. Oh, Rachel. Girls say things. It doesn't mean anything. I clenched my teeth, a simmering anger rising within me. It meant something to me, Diane. She was literally outlining her financial exit strategy. Rachel, you're overreacting. Throwing away 3 years over a silly comment. It wasn't a silly comment, I snapped. It was a truth she's been hiding. She didn't just say it, Diane. She planned for it. I could feel the heat rising in my face. I'm protecting myself from someone who saw me as nothing more than an investment. Her voice shook as she tried to reason with me. But Rachel, we've all invested in this wedding. The venue, the guests, the deposits. I'm covering my half, Diane, I interrupted, my voice cold. She can decide what to do with her half. I'm not a monster, but I'm also not an idiot. The line went dead as Diane hung up on me, but the calls didn't stop there. Matthew's texts came pouring in, each one more desperate than the last. Please talk to me, the first one read. You're being ridiculous. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it. You can't throw everything away because of one conversation, he begged in the next. I love you, Rachel. You're really going to humiliate me like this? I stared at the phone in my hands. No, Matthew, I texted back, my fingers shaking. I'm not humiliated by you. I'm humiliated by myself for not seeing it sooner. There was no response for hours, and then another message came through. You know I transferred the condo, don't you? The message was short, calculated. My lawyer says that's fraud. I laughed. It wasn't a mocking laugh, but a hollow one. I texted back only one line. Your lawyer's wrong. My lawyer's better. I hit send and blocked him, finally severing the last tie to a life that had never really been mine. But it wasn't over. 3 days later, Matthew showed up at my office unannounced, dressed casually in a sweater and jeans, holding a Starbucks cup like some sort of peace offering. He knew better than to come directly to my desk, but I saw him standing there through the blinds of my office window. He looked out of place in my sterile, professional environment. He had the nerve to smile at me through the glass. I watched, paralyzed for a moment, as he tried to push past my assistant, Dana. Rachel, please, he pleaded. I just want to talk. Dana, who had seen it all before, blocked his way without hesitation. Tom doesn't want to see you, honey. Matthew's eyes flicked over to Dana, a look of disbelief on his face. Dana was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who didn't take kindly to nonsense, especially the kind of nonsense Matthew was offering. Ex-fiancé, Dana added, crossing her arms, her face stern. Matthew tried to press further, but Dana's stance never wavered. She stood there like a brick wall. What part of no do you not understand? Dana asked, her voice calm yet forceful. Matthew huffed, defeated, and left a letter on my desk, along with the now lukewarm Starbucks cup. When I opened the letter later that evening, I found the familiar message of desperation. It was the same tired appeal, the one I'd heard in every conversation over the past few days. My dearest Rachel, it began, I know you're hurt. I said something stupid and thoughtless, but you have to understand. I was just talking. Girls say things they don't mean all the time. You're throwing away our entire future over one conversation. Please, just talk to me. We can work this out. We can even sign a prenup if that makes you feel better. I don't care about your money. I care about you. Forever yours, Matt. I folded the letter carefully, a deep weariness creeping into my chest. A prenup. Now, after everything, now he offers one. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. But there was something deeper beneath it, a realization that he wasn't asking for my love anymore. He was asking for my approval, my permission to continue manipulating me. I set the letter down, and without a second thought, I called my lawyer. Prepare a formal response, I said. No further contact, not for any reason. Make sure he knows this is over. Part 3. Escalation and exposure. The weeks following my confrontation with Matthew were filled with silence. His messages became less frequent, but they were still there, lingering in the background like a shadow. His attempts at communication were predictable, always apologetic, and always trying to buy back my trust with words he no longer seemed to mean. But the real escalation came when I received a call from Ashley, his ex-girlfriend. Ashley had always been on the periphery of my life, the woman who seemed harmless enough, but who, in hindsight, had always kept a distance. It wasn't until she reached out to me that I realized how much I had missed. "Rachel, I need to talk to you." Ashley's voice was tight over the phone. "It's about Matthew." I paused, a sense of foreboding creeping up my spine. "What about him?" "He's done this before," she said, her tone urgent. "You need to know. I should have told you earlier, but I didn't think he'd do it again. He's done it with me, and now I'm seeing the same signs. He manipulates women. He doesn't want love, Rachel. He wants control." My heart skipped a beat. "You mean, you think he's using me for the same thing?" Ashley hesitated before responding. "I don't think. I know. He wanted to marry me for my money, too. He tried to convince me to transfer assets before our engagement, just like he's doing with you. And when I didn't comply, he started pushing me away. I just didn't realize what I was dealing with until it was too late." I let her words sink in, the weight of her experience mirroring my own. I had known, deep down, that I wasn't the only one. I hadn't realized it was so systematic, so planned out. "I never thought it would happen to me," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, I didn't either," Ashley replied softly. "But when you see it, you can't unsee it. You need to protect yourself, Rachel. He'll try to manipulate your emotions, make you feel guilty for everything that's happening. But listen to me. This is him. This is who he is." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew she was right. I had already seen the cracks, had felt the manipulation, but I hadn't been willing to admit it until now. Ashley's voice grew more somber. "He's dating someone new, by the way, a girl from his CrossFit gym. He's already talking about moving in with her, asking about her assets, just like he did with me. It's the same damn thing." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You're warning me, aren't you?" "I am. Don't let him do to you what he did to me. Don't let him control you." "Thank you," I whispered, a wave of gratitude flooding me. I had no idea. "You're welcome," she said quietly. "I just wish I had told you sooner. Please, Rachel, don't make the same mistake I did." After the call ended, I sat in my living room, the phone still clutched in my hand. The realization hit me harder than I'd expected. This was all a pattern, a calculated move. Matthew wasn't the man I thought he was. He never had been, and I had been blind to it for far too long. But I wasn't blind anymore. I had the power to stop this. And I wasn't going to wait around for Matthew to ruin my life like he had with Ashley's. I spent the rest of the evening strategizing. I reached out to my lawyer to reinforce the boundaries I had set, making sure Matthew would be legally blocked from any further attempts to manipulate or intimidate me. But there was more. It wasn't just about blocking him from contacting me. It was about making sure he couldn't harm me in the future. I wasn't about to let him walk away with nothing, not after everything he had tried to take from me. And then it happened. Matthew made the fatal mistake of trying to take his narrative public. The first post appeared late one night, a cryptic, emotional message on his Instagram story. "Sometimes the person you trust the most is the one who hurts you the deepest." A wave of anger rushed through me as I stared at the screen. His attempt at damage control, his effort to play the victim. I could almost hear his voice dripping with manipulation, but I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to let him twist this into something it wasn't. I pulled out my phone and posted my own response, clear and simple. "Matthew didn't just hurt me, he used me. And if you ever find yourself in a relationship where your partner jokes about divorce and taking your money, run. Don't walk, run. Because it's not a joke, it's a business plan." It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a call for sympathy. It was the truth. And the truth was always louder than any manipulative message he could spin. I hit post, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of relief. I had taken control of my narrative. It wasn't long before the backlash began. Friends and family who had been on Matthew's side started to turn. People I had once called friends unfollowed him. The comments came pouring in, some of them supportive, some of them questioning, but none of them defending him. Ashley had been right. Once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Matthew's reaction was predictable, of course. The damage control, the desperate plea for forgiveness. But it was too late. The seeds of doubt had already been planted, and they were growing fast. And then, just when I thought it couldn't escalate further, Matthew's father, Richard, showed up at my apartment. Part 4. The conclusion and final revelation. It was late in the evening when I heard the knock on my door. At first, I thought it was just a late delivery, maybe one of the packages I'd ordered. But then the knock came again, harder this time. My heart skipped a beat. There was something urgent about it, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I opened the door cautiously, and there stood Richard, Matthew's father. He was a large man, built like a boulder, his hands clenched into fists by his sides. His face was flushed red with anger, and his eyes bore into me with a level of fury I had never seen before. "Open the door, Rachel," he barked, his voice booming. "We need to talk, man to woman." I froze, my mind racing. This wasn't a conversation. This was intimidation. I didn't invite him in, but he pushed past me, stepping into my apartment without hesitation. "Richard, you need to leave, right now," I said firmly, my voice shaking but resolute. He ignored me, taking a few steps into the living room before spinning around to face me. "You've ruined my son's life, Rachel. Do you know what you've done? You've humiliated him. You've torn this family apart." I stood my ground. "I didn't ruin his life, Richard. He did that himself. He thought I wouldn't find out about his plans, about how he was using me for my money. He wasn't marrying me for love, Richard. He was marrying me for assets." Richard's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "You think you're better than us, don't you? With your fancy job, your big career, your condo. You've been playing him all along, taking him for everything he's worth, and now you're turning the world against him. He loved you, but you've destroyed everything." "I didn't destroy anything," I replied calmly, my hands steady at my sides. "What I did was protect myself. He was never honest with me, and when I found out the truth, I made sure he couldn't do the same thing to me that he did to Ashley." Richard didn't even flinch. "You're a selfish woman. You can't see it, can you? All you care about is your money and your career. What happened to love, Rachel? What happened to commitment, to being there for each other through thick and thin? Love isn't about money. Commitment isn't about financial security. And I didn't ask him to do any of this," I said, my voice sharp now. "What's the point of commitment if it's built on lies?" Richard stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, trying to process what I was saying. But then his face twisted with frustration. "You'll regret this, Rachel. You think you're in control now, but you're not. You've made a huge mistake, and you'll pay for it." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. "I'm calling the police if you don't leave," I said calmly. "You have 5 seconds." Richard's eyes narrowed, but he could see that I wasn't backing down. With a sharp exhale, he turned on his heel and stormed out of the apartment, slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a long moment, my heart pounding in my chest. That was the moment I realized I had made the right decision. Matthew wasn't the man I thought he was. His family wasn't who I thought they were, and if I had stayed, I would have been living a lie for the rest of my life. The next day, I received another letter from Matthew. This time, it was from his lawyer. The subject line read, "Unjust enrichment claim." Inside, the letter demanded that I pay Matthew for living in the condo for the last 2 years, as he claimed that I owed him rent for the time I had lived there. The letter calculated a market rent of $1,500 per month, totaling $36,000, minus what he claimed were my contributions to the grocery bill. I had to laugh. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer, who responded with a succinct and calm reply. "Please remind Mr. Richardson that his claim is baseless. Rachel was not living at the condo with his permission, but rather as his fiancé. Furthermore, the financial contributions he claims are negligible and do not merit such a demand." My lawyer also included a reminder about the asset transfer and the ongoing legal proceedings. The letter was filed, and Matthew was formally warned not to contact me again. But this didn't stop him. Of course it didn't. A few days later, a social media post from Matthew made its way into my feed. It was another cryptic message. "Sometimes the person you take a bullet for is the one who ends up behind the trigger." I didn't even need to read the caption. The implication was clear. He was still playing the victim, still trying to make me look like the villain in his twisted narrative. I was done. There was no going back now. I made one final decision. I posted one last statement on social media. If your fiancé jokes about divorcing you for money, run. Don't walk. Run, because it's not a joke. It's a business plan. I'm done with the lies, the manipulation, and the abuse. I deserve more than this, and I will never settle for someone who doesn't see me for who I truly am. It was simple. It was the truth. And that was it. The silence followed. Matthew's posts and pleas stopped. The backlash from his side of the family continued for a few weeks, but then it died down. Life moved on. I spent the next few months healing, finding strength in the friends who supported me and in the lessons I had learned. I knew that moving forward, I would never again ignore the red flags. I would never let anyone manipulate me into thinking I was less than I am. And I was better for it. In time, I began dating again, slowly but surely. But this time, I was cautious. I knew what it took to protect myself, to trust only when the person earned it. As for Matthew, I heard through the grapevine that he had moved in with his new girlfriend, the one from the gym, and, just like Ashley had predicted, he was already asking about her financials, trying to secure another future built on someone else's wealth. I wished her luck.